Hello everyone and welcome to a new video in our IFS Cloud video series. My name is Marcela Ushan, I'm an IFS consultant, and today I want to take a step further in explaining how the configuration layer and understanding how the configuration layer works in IFS Cloud. In the previous videos we had a short look at how to create page configurations using Page Designer, then we had a look at how to create attributes, configure custom attributes on different entities of IFS Cloud. And today, in order to take it one step further, we will be looking at the events framework, and more specifically, we will be seeing how to and creating a custom event with an email notification, and we will have a very credible scenario which has been already requested by two of the customers that I worked with in the past, that whenever a customer order is delivered, then the customer reference, the representative from the customer side, should get a notification, email notification that the order was delivered. Of course, in the past this was done by manually sending an email, but in IFS Cloud, we can do it in an automated way. Basically, we can create a custom event to send that email notification. But before going into the system, I want to also walk you through the process that we will be doing today. So basically, we will have a customer order, which we will go through all the stages of reserving and delivering. And once this customer order will be delivered, then we will have our custom event and the action triggered, which will create an application message with all the email details gathered from the custom event. And then this content of the email is sent to an IFS mail sender to send the email. And then finally, the email is received by the recipient. So for today, it's out of scope, the mail sender configuration. This is already something I did in the past. And it will also be a subject for a future video. But today we will just simply look at creating the custom event and try to understand the events framework. But we will put it in this business scenario where we have the customer order delivered, and then all the rest of the steps will follow. Then let me go directly into the system, and obviously we need to have a customer order, and I want to explain a few things before going and creating the custom event. So basically we need a recipient for the email that we will send once this order will be delivered, and the recipient will be the customer reference. So in this case it's Michael Brown, and this Michael Brown will be in the to field of the email, and the salesperson we will put in CC. In case our customer has some questions, then they have somebody to ask those questions to in the carbon copy of the email. Very important is that to make sure that behind this customer reference and the salesperson, there is a person ID with a valid email address. And if we go into the customer contact for Michael Brown, we see we have a person number 65. And here, if we go to communication method, we should see an email. We should see an email address, which is my personal email address, but works well for the purpose of this demo. Then let me go one back, and we can go back into the customer order and also make sure that our salesperson, which will be in the carbon copy field of the email, also has an email address associated. So I go to the salesperson. Obviously I set up myself as a salesperson, and then if in the person we go to communication method, we see the same email address. Good. So this is what we need in order to make sure that the email could be sent to someone. And another thing that's important for our process is the customer PO number. So I filled it out because it's important for the customer. Probably they care more about their order number instead of our order number. So we will also add this field to the email subject and even the email body. Okay, good. Then how do we go about creating a custom event? We go to the events page, and it's in Solution Manager, Configuration Events. I'll open it in a new tab. Yeah, and here we will see that in the standard functionality, there's already a lot of events that IFS R&D already provided. And here we will see all kind of different notifications that already exist for approving a purchase order, for approving an invoice, and so on. So really a lot of different events that are of event type application defined. But obviously we can also create our own custom events. Yeah? And when we talk about custom events, what you need to understand is that these technically are just a trigger in the Oracle database, and the trigger is an Oracle object which can monitor for changes in a specific table or new records being inserted in the table or records being deleted. Whenever such an event happens, we could do some action. Yeah? So basically, to create a custom event, we will just go to new custom event, and an assistant page would open up, and we will go through all the steps to set event ID and description, add object details, and so on. So event ID, I always tend to use the C underscore to differentiate the custom events from the standard events that IFS provides. So I'll say C underscore CO for customer order delivered. And obviously I always used to leave some description behind so that people that come after me, they understand who did and what was the purpose of this event. Sending email notification to customer when CO is delivered. Okay. Then we click on next. And very important, the entity. And now probably you know this from our custom attributes video. Yeah, basically the entity in this case, it's the same customer order. Yeah, if you need more details about how you identify the entity, please have a look at the custom attributes creation tutorial, and there you will find all the needed information. So our entity is the customer order, and as I said, an event is a trigger on a table in the database. And here, linked to the entity customer order, we will have a bunch of tables, but we really only care about the customer order tab, because the field that we want to monitor is the status field, or the row state, we will see it's called. And we just need to take some action, send the email whenever the row state column changes in the customer order tab. So we will select the customer order tab, and here you can see we can set our trigger, when to fire, when new objects are created, meaning when new customer orders are inserted or created in this customer order tab, or when objects are removed, meaning deletion of the records of the customer orders, and when objects are changed. And this is what we want to do. So we don't care about new orders being created or orders being deleted from the table, but we care when orders are changed. And we don't care about all the changes, we only care when one of these attributes are changed. And if we select the attribute, we could search for it, or we could just filter. I know the column name is row state. Yeah, indeed we find it. Yeah, so we only want to trigger this event when the status of the customer order is changed. You will see in the event action, we will also put a condition that the row state must be delivered in order to send the email, but this would be in the event action. Next step, we can see all the different attributes or columns in the customer order tab table. And here we could see, let me just expand this to 960 and then show more. We could see all the different columns that are available in the table. And now from here, we could choose which ones we want to use in our event actions. We could tick all of them, old and new, but for our purpose, what we will need, and I will just filter the attributes because there are so many. So we will need the customer PO number. So I will just filter by cust. So we only need the new value. yeah, because this value, yeah, probably will not change. You put it inside when you create a customer order and then it stays the same. But it could be, you could have cases when, for example, you want to monitor the the old value and the new value, if we are talking about a change in a specific record, and only when the status changes maybe from reserved to delivered, you want to do this. Yeah? So then you will need to filter by, put a condition on the old status and on the new value status. Yeah? But in this case, we care about customer PO number. Yeah, the new value is fine. We care about the cust ref. This is our person ID for the customer reference. This one we need. We also need a salesman. Let's see, salesman code. Yeah, let's also put maybe the order number. Yeah, the order number, we need it. Maybe it would be useful to include our order number and customer's order number. So in case they have a reclamation or something, they could say, okay, this is the order number in your system. Okay, and obviously we need a row state because we will put a condition on the row state. And again, we just need the new value. We only care when the new value of the status is delivered. We click on next. Here we can set some custom attributes specific just for this event. Yeah, basically, if we need, and we will need to set up this, but I will show you how. Basically, if we need some information which is not already in the standard fields of the customer order table, then we have the option to set up some custom attributes based on the information in the standard attributes, in the standard columns. We can bring in new data that we could use in our event. And for this, we will do this, we will create a few, yeah, because basically we will have the customer reference, which is just a number in our case, a person ID. And also we have the salesman code, which is again the person ID. But in order to send the email to these people, we need the email address. So based on the person ID, we will get the email address. But for now, we will just press finish. I always like it more when I work on the detailed page of the custom events and not on the assistant. Yeah, so let me just expand this and just select wherever we have a new value, yes, just to double check. So these are the attributes that will be available when we create the event action. Event action is something that we will create in the next step. So basically the custom event is monitoring our customer order entity and our table. What happened with the table? Didn't we select the table? Maybe a bug that the table was not saved. Let me just refresh. No, it's here. Okay. So the table is here. So we are monitoring the customer order table whenever there is a change on the status. Yeah. We didn't tell it what to do yet. Yeah. What action to take. This will be in the next step. Okay, and we also declare that we need the order number, the salesman code, customer PO number, customer reference, and the row state in our event action. Yeah. Now, we will define also some custom attributes. So basically, we will need the customer reference name or the person ID name, which is Michael Brown, because in our data here, reference, here we only have a number, 65. Yeah. Here in the screen, okay, we also have the Michael Brown because it's also getting the name, but this name is not part of the customer order table. Yeah? So in the customer order table, we only have number 65, which is a person ID. And based on the person ID, we need to get the communication method, email, and the person name, so that we can address the email politely to hello, Mr. Michael Brown. So I press the plus sign. I need to give it a name for the custom attribute, and in this case I will say it's cust ref name, and here I could use a PL SQL function Let me just copy it and I will explain what I'm doing. So basically each page in IFS Cloud has an API in the database, yeah, PL SQL package, which has a bunch of functions, yeah. So basically we call the person API and get the name of that person, yeah. So we pass as an parameter to this function the cast ref, which in this case we know that the cast ref would be the person ID, yeah. And obviously we also pass the new value, and in order to pass old or new value we need to do this n% new and two dots and then the column name. Yeah, this is the syntax in IFS. You just need to keep it into account. Yeah, we will say this is a string. We could save it and we can create a new one. Obviously we would also need the salesman name, yeah, because the person ID of the salesman is marcel.ausan, but we will need the full name, without the dot. So I will say salesman name, and again I could copy this function call here, but instead of the new cast ref I need to pass the salesman code, salesman code column, no? And I'll say this is also a string. I could save it, and I would also need to create two more attributes to get the salesman address, email address, and the customer reference email address. So salesman email. I also have a function called here. Let me just copy it and then I will explain it again. Yeah, getting into this PL SQL API functions, yeah, it's a bit more technical and more complex. Yeah, but basically what we are doing, we are going into the communication method API, which is the data that's behind the communication method page of the person in this case, and we just get the default value of what? Of a person, because we could have a customer, we could have a supplier and so on, but we need a default value of the person. And here we will pass the person ID, which is the salesman code, and we need the email, because the communication method, you can have different communication methods. You can have a phone, a fax, an email, website, and so on. Yeah, and we just pass two attributes as null and the system date as the date when this email address should be valid. Of course, we did not have an expiry date on in our case on the email addresses. Okay, this is also a string. I will save it, and we will also put in the cast ref email. Yeah, and this would be the value that we will put in the to field of the email. So I will just copy this one and quickly change, instead of the salesman code, I will put cast ref. Yeah, so we pass the person ID of the customer reference and get the email address, the default email address. This is also a string, and save. Okay, so now in our event we could use all of these standard attributes and also any of these for custom attributes that we created. Good. We can see our event is not yet enabled. Yeah, we can also see we can add it to an application configuration package in case we test it successfully and we want to deploy it into the next environment. You've seen probably the last video that I did, how to transfer configurations from one environment to the other using application configuration packages. Good. Then the only thing that we need now is to create an event action. Yeah? The event itself will not do anything. Yeah? In order for the event to do something, we need to have an action. Yeah? We can have one or more event actions attached to a custom event. Yeah? In this case, we will just create one event action, but we could have multiple event actions linked to the same custom event if needed. So we will just say create a new event action, and here we need to select the action type. We will have a lot of different action types. Yeah, we can execute a workflow, we can create a task, We can create an application message, execute some SQL, PL SQL code, or we could send an email. Yeah? And this is what we will do. We will send an email. So we will send an email after the CO delivered event is fired. I also put a description here. Send email notification to customer after CO is delivered. Yeah. And now here is the place where we put conditions. Yeah? Because in the event you've seen, we said the event should be triggered on changes of the status of the order. Yeah, but status could change from planned to released, from released to reserved, from reserved to picked, from picked to partially delivered, to invoice closed, and so on. So basically we need to make sure that we only fire this event action to send the email when the new row state is equal to, let me just edit this, equal to delivered. Done. Okay, so our event action will only fire when the new row state is delivered. Yeah. If we change from planned to released, there will be no email. If we change from released to reserved, there will be no email. Only when the order is delivered, we want to send the email. So it's very important the condition that we put. Then we go to next. And here we have the action details. Yeah, in this case, we have an action type email. So the action details will be things that we need to put in an email. Yeah, to whom we send it to, who's in carbon copy, who's in BCC, from which user is sent, which is the subject, which is the message, and very important, which email sender to be used. Yeah. I have created my own Ausan test email sender. This goes through my Gmail account. So we start with the to field. So here, of course, we will want to put the customer ref email. Yeah, that's why we created it as a custom attribute, because the email address of the customer reference, we don't have it in the customer order table. So we create it as a custom attribute. So we just copy it from here and put it on the top. CC we want to send to salesman email. BCC nobody. From user, yeah, we can just leave it empty, and it will just appear the event action, the event ID. Subject, yeah. So here we could already start composing the subject of the email. So we can say your order, and then we can paste the customer PO number variable, so your order, and then it will take the information from the customer order table for this order number. Your order was, we could write delivered, or we know that our row state will also say delivered, so we can just put it as a parameter. Yeah? So this would read, we should get an email saying your order and then the customer PO number was delivered. And this is what we should get. And then we can compose the message. One caveat here, when you compose the message, you also need to use the HTML break tags, which is, I will show you in a minute, in order to insert new lines, and the email should be formatted nicely. So we could say, dear, and now we could put the the customer reference name. So dear Michael Brown, in this case, we can put a comma. And if we just do it like that with a new line, yeah, it will not really work. We also need to put in BR. This is the HTML tag for break. Each BR that we put in is like a new line. Yeah, in this case, we will put 2 breaks so that we have an empty line. Yeah, so we will have 2 new lines, and we can say your order number, and again we can copy the customer PO number, was delivered, and for delivered we can copy the new row state, and then we can put a break, Uh, in case you have any questions on the delivery, please contact your key account manager. We can put in CC'd here, so it's included in the CC of this email. And we can also put the salesman name. Salesman name, also give the name of the salesperson. Okay, and then we include a new break, maybe even 2 breaks. And then it would be nice to say your order number, our order number, yeah, so that they also have our IFS order number in case they have some claims to do. They can inform us with our order number. So your order number is the customer PO number from the customer order. And let me put a break here. And then we have our order number, which is the order number, the new order number. Again, I put a break, 2 breaks. Okay, and then best regards, and then a break. Best regards what? Best regards delivery team. Okay, yeah, so this is the email that we will send. So dear Michael Brown, 2 spaces, 2 new lines, your order number was delivered. In case you have any questions on the delivery, please contact your key account manager, CC'd on this email here, and then we give the salesman name, some line breaks, and then your order number, our order number, best regards, delivery team. No? Good. Then we could just say next, and we can enable the event action and finish. Once you enable the event action, also the event itself will be enabled. You know? Let me just see again what we did. So we have an event action details. Again, we can add it to a configuration package. And once you add an event action to a configuration package, also the custom event itself will be added to the same configuration. Yeah, I think there's a bug here because it doesn't keep the mail sender when you create it from the assistant. Let me make sure it kept it. I do a hard refresh now after I put in the new mail sender, and we should see it there. Okay, so it's loading. Yes, so now the mail sender is kept and we have our email. Yeah, good. Then this was all the setup that we needed to do in order to capture the change of the customer order status and send an email when the order changes to the status delivered. Yeah. Now let's go ahead and process our order. So we go to the quick order flow, do everything from there, but maybe before, let me just make sure we don't have any shipment to be created. So we look at the shipment type. Okay, this will create a new shipment when the order is released. Let me change it to NA so that there will be no shipment created. NA automatic, and save it. And let me also look at the line really quickly because going through the shipment process will take a bit longer, a few more clicks. Let me see here. We care about the shipment type. Okay, so it's visible, but where is it? Shipment type. We will need to change it to, okay, it's already NA, so it was copied from our customer order header. Good. Then we go to the quick order flow and go through the process quickly. So we will release the order. Yeah, so this will change from planned to released. Our email should not be sent yet. Then we will reserve the order. So status will change to reserved. No, I have detailed video about this processing of customer orders. If you're interested in the functional aspect of it, then we will create a pick list. And then we will finally report picking. Report picking of pick list lines. Okay, quickly quantity to pick one. So we report this picking. Okay, so it's complete. So now it's picked and now we can finally deliver. Yeah? But before delivering, let me open the application messages. Yeah? So if you remember from the beginning of this tutorial, yeah, we said that whenever a custom event is triggered to send an email, this will internally create an application message. Yeah? Then the application message will send the content of the email to the sender, to the mail sender, and then the mail sender will actually deliver. Okay, so I tested this process some minutes ago, but doesn't really matter. So this is the latest application message that was created today. Yeah, so I have a filter for created based on today's date. Yeah, and we will see once we go back to our order and try to deliver it, there will be a new application message because we would have triggered the event. Yeah, so deliver. Okay, we go to application message, refresh. Yeah, and we see, okay, now I have two events here, but the ones that we created together is this one. So we have a notification, status finished, CO delivered, and I will go and view the details. And here we can see the email, the details of the email that was sent. Yeah. In case of error messages, we will see error messages in the application message. Yeah, so this is very important for IT to monitor the failed application messages, and maybe sometimes you don't have an email address for salesman or for customer reference, and then the system doesn't know to whom to send the email, and this application message would fail with an error message. Yeah, so here we can see the body. Yeah, we can download the body of the email, and we could see the details. Yeah, so the email goes to my personal email address. Yeah, this is the customer reference. Then we could see address data 2. This is the carbon copy. This is the salesman email address. Sender is the event. Yeah, now nothing in BCC, and we have a timestamp when the order was sent. Yeah? Good. And now let's see if the email really arrived. It should be already in my inbox. Let me just transition. Okay, and we could see we have two email addresses, two emails that were received. Yeah, one from our event, this CO delivered. The other one is from the event that I created just to test this process to make sure everything works. And I obviously forgot to deactivate it, but doesn't matter. So this is the email that we sent. Yeah, so we can see your order and then the customer PO number appears, was delivered. Then we can see the two. This is the email address of the customer reference. This is the email address of the salesperson. Now let me just do one thing. I don't think you could see it. How to make it bigger. Okay. Yeah, let me just do it like that. Okay. Now you should see it. Now you should see it correctly, yeah? Maybe even a bit up. Okay. Good. So you can see the email that was received, yeah, and customer reference email address, the salesman email address, and the subject. Your order was delivered, dear Michael Brown. This is the customer reference name, your order number, and then we get it dynamically was row state, new row state, which is delivered. In case you have any questions on the delivery, contact the account manager here, and you can see my name and your order number, our order number, and the best regards. Yeah? So it's quite easy in the end to set up an email notification, and imagine you could set up email notifications based on any record changes in IFS Cloud. You could set it up for purchase orders, purchase requisitions, maintenance requisitions, shop orders, invoices, customer invoices, instant invoices, yeah, whichever page you want a notification on, you could easily do that. I hope it was useful. Stay tuned for more content where we will explore more in depth the configuration layer of IFS Cloud. Until then, stay safe and talk to you soon. Bye.